All right, guys, so it's another day, which means that, there's another day of being embarrassed on the world stage by the Biden administration. And this time, it was on his recent trip this weekend to Europe, in which he was in Poland discussing the Russia invasion of Ukraine. And during his time there, Biden made a number of gaffes / mistakes that has raised a lot of eyebrows, okay? And the first one I want to talk about here is Biden basically strongly suggesting that U.S. troops will be in Ukraine to see the conditions that the Ukrainian citizens are currently dealing with. Take a look.
And you're going to see when you're there, and some of you have been there, you're going to see women, young people standing in the middle of front of a damn tank, just saying, I'm not leaving. I'm holding my ground. They're incredible.
Now, that is the 82nd Airborne Division in Ukraine. And Biden, in no uncertain terms there, basically said that, hey, you guys, when you're there, you're going to see the conditions on the ground. You're going to witness the bravery of the Ukrainians fighting off the Russian invasion, right? The narrative that is being told by the mainstream liberal media of what is going on there, that the Ukrainians are making this miraculous pushback against Russia, which is a nuclear power, one of the strongest militaries in the world. Ukraine is miraculously fighting off this invasion, okay? That is the story that's being told. And he's telling the U.S. troops that they're going to see that, which strongly implies that we're going to be sending troops to Ukraine. Now, was this a gaffe, or was this just, him saying the quiet part out loud? Well, if I had to guess, I would say that it's probably him saying the quiet part out loud in terms of what they want to do. Now, will they actually do it? I don't know. Okay, but we all know that the military-industrial complex and the mainstream media, they want war, right? They want war with Russia, okay? Or at the very least, they want a proxy war. They might not want World War III, but they want a proxy war because that is profitable, right? And they don't care about U.S. troops losing their lives as long as they make some money. Right, they're already making some money off of us sending arms to Ukraine and weapons and stuff like that. But they can make even more money if U.S. troops were actually in Ukraine. Okay, so I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that that is something that's probably currently being considered, even though publicly Biden is saying that that option is off the table. Okay, I don't think he said that on accident. I think he said what he was thinking and what he forgot that he's not supposed to say. Okay, and this actually happened again to Joe Biden when discussing Putin, as he basically in a speech pulled a Lindsey Graham and said that Putin must be removed as the leader of Russia, basically calling for regime change in Russia. Take a look.
A dictator bent on rebuilding an empire will never erase a people's love for liberty. Brutality will never grind down their will to be free. Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refused to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principles, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. God bless you all, and may God defend our freedom, and may God protect our troops.
Yeah, so there you have it. In no uncertain terms, Biden is saying Putin must be removed as leader of Russia. He cannot remain in power is what Joe Biden said. Okay, now we ripped Lindsey Graham for saying something kind of like that. He went even further to basically call for the assassination of Vladimir Putin. But Biden is basically saying something that is similar to that, because the only way the man will be removed is for him to be assassinated by saying he can't remain in power. And it's like, again, it's the same thing that we criticize Lindsey Graham for. That may be what people are thinking, but you cannot say that out loud as the leader of this country. You can't say it, okay? You're basically calling for a foreign leader to be removed, right? And we're not talking about Saddam Hussein, right? A country that doesn't have nukes, okay? We're talking about a country, Russia, that is nuclear armed. Right? And you're saying that, oh, no, their leader must be removed, right? He can't stay in power. You just can't make mistakes like that, right? That's a mistake you can't make. Like, how do you think that Russia's going to interpret that? How do you think Putin's going to interpret that? Okay? He could possibly interpret that as a declaration of war, right? That is the way he can interpret it. Oh, the Americans, they want to take me out, right? They want to remove me from power, okay? Even though it's obvious that everybody does, but you can't say it. When you start running around here saying it, especially in Europe, right, and other foreign countries, yeah, that's a problem, right? That's a big problem. Now, of course, the White House came back and rolled back Biden's comments, tried to do damage control, said, oh, no, he didn't really mean that. He made a mistake, right? He made a mistake, as if he didn't say something that everybody is thinking in their head. But we all know you can't and you should not say out loud. And again, it's funny because the mainstream liberal media went after Trump because they thought, well, Trump's so unhinged. He's going to cause World War III, right? With the things that he says, he's going to cause World War III. That was the big fear with Trump. But even Trump didn't say anything like this, okay? Trump didn't say nothing like this. But, you know, they all get on Trump for being unhinged, particularly when it comes to what happened with Iran and General Soleimani. And I'm like, you know, it's one thing to clap a general for a country like Iran who doesn't have nukes. Okay, it's one thing to do that. It's another to come out here and to call for regime change for a nuclear armed nation. Okay, those are two different things. Okay, but let's actually hear Trump's comments on the comments that Biden made. Take a look.
You know, they're talking weak, and yet they're almost giving him an incentive. It's they're handling him very badly, in my opinion. I think that Biden apologized again today. He's apologized every time he makes a speech. He apologizes 3-4 times a day for everything he says. Look, we have people that don't know what they're doing, and it's the most dangerous time in the history of our country, in my opinion. I don't think our country has ever been in greater danger than it is right now because of the power of certain weapons that I know very well.
Speaking of, yeah, so Trump is basically saying that Biden is basically almost giving Putin an incentive to use nuclear weapons, okay? And that's kind of what you do when you're basically coming out here and implying that we're going to be sending U.S. troops to Ukraine, and you're saying that we need regime change in Russia, right? You're calling for Putin to be disposed as the leader of Russia, okay? If I was Putin, right, and I'm like, oh, these guys might be trying to assassinate me, yeah, that would probably incentivize me to want to step my game up in terms of the type of weapons that I'm willing to use. And speaking of weapons that you're not supposed to use, Biden also made the mistake of basically saying that if Russia uses chemical weapons, that we're going to respond in kind. Now, you guys know chemical weapons are those weapons that you're not supposed to use during war, right? You know, we invade countries because they allegedly are using chemical weapons against their own people, right? And we use that as an excuse to topple democratically elected leaders, right? But Biden basically strongly implied that we were going to, you know, do that, right, if Russia did that. Biden's comments were so bad that even CNN ripped Biden a new one for making these comments. Take a look.
Unfortunately, the message is confused, which is why President Biden, I think, kind of worked himself up in this speech, and then he made a comment that he did. You know, but the White House's response, though, to say what he really meant is really gaslighting the American people. We know that he really doesn't want Putin to be in power. And they could have just said, listen, we all recognize that Putin is evil. What he's doing is evil, but the policy of the United States is, in fact, to get to a position of peace in Ukraine, and we're going to arm the Ukrainians to make sure they can get to a negotiated peace. The other thing I would say, too, is this isn't his only gaffe. President Biden also made the gaffe about sending the 82nd Airborne into Ukraine, which we're not doing. And he also said that the United States would respond in kind if there was a chemical weapons attack on the part of Russia. So this really was, it was not a good, I think, trip for the president, because the three big gaffes really are at cross purposes with the overall message from this administration.
Yeah, so it's that bad, right? It is that bad. That even CNN is like, you know, we don't really like these comments from Biden, right? This is kind of embarrassing, okay, that he's making this many mistakes. So Biden was actually pressed today by Peter Doocy, right? Of course, he's the only one that's going to ask the real questions about his mistakes that he made this weekend. And I want you guys to take a look at Biden's pathetic response.
Hey, We need some more clarification, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I know you're going to ask a really nice question.
Well, it's an important question,
No,
I think. Are you worried that other leaders in the world are going to start to doubt that America is back if some of these big things that you say on the world stage keep getting walked back?
What's getting walked back?
It made it sound like, just in the last couple days, it sounded like you told U.S. troops they were going to Ukraine. It sounded like you said it was possible the U.S. would use a chemical weapon, and it sounded like you were calling for regime change in Russia, and we know...
None of the three occurred.
None of the three occurred?
None of the three.
Mr. President?
You interpret the language that way. I was talking to the troops. We're talking about helping train the troops that are the Ukrainian troops that are in Poland. That's what the context. I sat there with those guys for a couple hours. That's what we talked about.
So when you said you're going to see when you're there, you were not intending to
I was referring to meeting with and talking with the Ukrainian troops who were in Poland.
And when you said a chemical weapon use by Russia would trigger a response in kind.
It will trigger a significant response.
What does that mean?
I'm not going to tell you. Why would I tell you? You got to be silly.
The world wants to know.
The world wants to know a lot of things. I'm not telling them what the response would be. Then Russia knows the response.
Honestly, I shouldn't be laughing because, I mean, this is the leader of the United States of America, guys. He's basically said, I didn't say any of those things that I am on video saying. I'm literally on video saying these things. I didn't say those things. You're lying. You're making it up. Bruh, it's on video. You literally on video saying those exact things, right? This is embarrassing, bro. This is embarrassing. This guy is about to literally drive us into World War III with Russia, okay? That's what he's about to do. And then when confronted about it, he says, I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't say any of that stuff, right? Are you making it up, okay? And it's just, I just don't know what to say anymore. I'm just so speechless about just how bad this guy is at this job, okay? For a guy that wanted to be president so bad, that he's for certain better than Trump, right? The adults are back. The grown-ups are back in the White House. It sure seems like we have children, toddlers, running this country. That's kind of what it seems like, okay? That's what it seems like, because that's what kids do. When confronted about a mistake that we know that you made, instead of just owning up to your mistake and saying, hey, I apologize, I didn't mean that, whatever. No, I didn't do it, right? I didn't do that, right? I mean, it's childish, man. It really is. These are not the adults, right? These can't be the adults in the room, okay? Because if these are the adults in this country, Lord, help us, right? Help us, okay? So with that being said, yeah, that was embarrassment. Biden almost starting World War III. It does look like things are getting better, guys. I'm sorry to tell you. But hey, at least no more mean tweets. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.